welcome to Bridging the Gap Between Tech Industry Employment and Higher Education. We're delighted that you're involved, and when we looked at the attendee list just recently, it's a very diverse list. Obviously, this is front of mind for everyone in higher education. We have community colleges represented, we have private universities represented, we have regional publics, and we have big brand public universities, all as attendees, so welcome. I'd like to also introduce you to our panelists today and the agenda. Okay, we've asked the panelists to not only introduce themselves, but also just briefly mention what their favorite trending topic is in education. Let's start. Bridget, do you mind starting?
Sure. So my name is Bridget Cram. I serve as the Interim Vice President for Innovative Education and Student Success here at Florida International University in Miami, Florida. And my favorite trending topic right now definitely is developing a good, employer engagement strategy and figuring out really how to drive corporate relationships, corporate partnerships across the university to really deliver for our strategic employers.
Wow. And Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie Binko from Cal State Fullerton Extension and International Programs, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Enrollment Management. And my favorite trending topic, and I'm bucking the trend here, is tech hiring. And so we've heard of the massive layoffs beginning last year. I really want to focus on, the positive. We're hearing things like people are getting hired within 30 to 90 days immediately after getting laid off without the need to even file for unemployment. So I want to focus on the positives in that space.
All right, thank you, Debbie. And Kevin?
My name is Kevin Wachtel, and I'm Executive Director of Partnership Development for Indiana Wesleyan University, and I'm based in Indianapolis at one of our regional education centers. And my favorite trending topic now, having spent a number of meetings with chambers of commerce, is brain drain. There are so many communities in the Midwest that students who are finishing certifications or finishing degrees believe that they have no job pathway in those states, and so they feel the need to leave. And so we're trying to work with states to create those smarter pathways and create awareness about job opportunities in the Midwest.
Thank you, Kevin. And Stacy?
Hi, I'm Stacy Duffield, and I'm the Director of our Office of Teaching and Learning at North Dakota State University. And I think my trending word is connections. One of the things that I was charged with when I came into this office a couple of years ago was building connections, both outward and inward. So what that means is like with K-12 entities, but also with workforce development, and then internally being able to find and leverage partnerships across the university as well.
Fantastic. So just quickly to go over the agenda, I'd like to just go over a few data points with everyone. We think that these data points are front of mind for everyone in our particular industry, and then we're gonna move to some very specific questions for the panelists. If you have questions that are not raised by me for the panelists, please put them in the chat, and we will get to those towards the end of the webinar. Might not be able to get to everyone, but we'll certainly try. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and just know that we're going to have time for Q&A at the end as well. So yeah, so let's take a look at enrollment a second. I'm sure this is no surprise to everyone. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in graduate enrollment, but certainly a downward trend in undergraduate enrollment. And the pundits believe that there's no end in sight. And this is, certainly one of the reasons why we're looking at tech, because we know that that technology is an area that students are certainly looking at. It's an area, despite the layoffs, that grows exponentially. It's just the nature of tech, and it's going to continue to be an option not only for upskilling and education, but also enabling, economic mobility and workforce development. So, yeah, it appears to be a little dismal, but one of the reasons we're having this discussion today is to say, hey, what opportunity is there as well? So next slide, and here's the opportunity. As you can see, 91% of information tech professionals have at least one certification, an average of 4. And so there's a huge opportunity for certainly those of us in continuing and professional ed. And what we're also seeing, and it's represented by some of the panelists here, their institutions are actually taking some of the training and then evaluating it for credit as well. And that frees up, Title IV funding and the GI Bill and some of these other things where all of a sudden you can stack certificates and they apply towards degrees. It's obviously a very, very good thing for students. And 41% of these certifications were earned within the last 6 months, despite, what Debbie pointed out, a year of layoffs. Just within the last 6 months, we've seen this huge uptick. And the next slide will illustrate the silver lining. So 70,000 cuts over the last year, but 80% found new roles within 3 months. And a lot of them didn't even have to put out a resume. The demand is certainly there. We only graduate 65,000 computer science majors a year nationwide, and the numbers are close to 600,000 to 700,000, which is needed. So the market demand is certainly there. And then over 1,000 managers surveyed said they're planning to increase their budget and headcount in IT hiring this very year, 78%. So time for some questions for the panelists. And I'd like to start off with you, Kevin, if you don't mind, as to what is your university doing to support employment outcomes for students, especially during a financial recession?
Yeah, absolutely. And a great question. So Indiana Wesleyan University has 3 parts to it. We have a seminary because we're part of the Wesleyan Church. We have a traditional campus in Marion, Indiana, which is about 50 miles north of Indianapolis. And then I'm in the online division, which has about 8,500 online students globally. So we were already familiar with delivering online education. In fact, our first MBA online was in 1997, so we were a very early adopter. But we saw the trend that degrees weren't necessarily the solution to everything. So about 3 years ago, we began developing a training and certification portfolio that we call the talent ladder. And kind of the mantra or the battle cry is skills get jobs, degrees get promotions. And so we were kind of ignoring the skills portion of that. So we've created a portfolio, and we actually curate some of it and we create some of it. So we actually partner with trusted content partners like SkillStorm to apply and bring to us best-in-class training. And in SkillStorm's case, it's technology. We have others in medical and allied health and in other topics. Now, we still have an enrollment issue or an enrollment focus. So these courses and these certifications can earn a credit at Indiana Wesleyan University to apply to a degree program, but it's as a value add, it's not as a direction. In fact, I traveled with my chancellor yesterday and she said, I want to focus less on taking students from Talent Ladder into degree programs and focus more about delivering the best skills and the best employment opportunities to those students. So these credentials are stackable, they're current, and they have value in the marketplace, and they align with our degree program. So where they plug in really nicely on the tech side, we've got a number of technical training programs, cybersecurity, all the network security areas, Salesforce, and those types of technologies. And again, those all earn credit. We've doubled down in this area. We acquired an entity called the 1150 Academy that was started by Scott Jones, a tech entrepreneur. He was the one who invented voicemail. So he's very high level. And so now we're going to be delivering cyber boot camps face-to-face in addition to online education. And relative to this, military partnerships, we do a great job on trying to transition military from active service into jobs by doing quick hit programs, including certifications, developing those skills so they can get into the workforce as quickly as possible, and then developing corporate partnerships to help upskill their employees. And then we also work with staffing agencies ahead of the game so that we can create a pool for their clients, train them up, and prepare them for advanced manufacturing, mechatronics, robotics, safety, lean manufacturing. And then finally, we work really closely with the departments of workforce development in the Midwest, next level jobs in Indianapolis, where we can find grants, we can find funding so that we can bring funds and certifications together. A student can be educated, earn a pathway to a job without having out-of-pocket expenses. And that's where the recession piece comes in, is that if you can bring funds to someone who needs skills and wants skills, they have aptitude and attitude, then the 20,000 open cybersecurity jobs can then claim people who are coming through the top training. So tech is a big focus, data analytics, manufacturing, marketing, and the medical and allied health. All those markets have job openings and they're craving employees. So that's what we're trying to do is develop those skills as stepping stones into those jobs, and then hope that at some point they see the opportunity for a degree in the future.
Great, thank you, Kevin. And Debbie, what's going on at Cal State Fullerton?
Yeah, so we're a public institution here in Southern California. We don't have a ton of money to spend. We're self-support, so as the economy slows and consumers are pulling back on their spending, we continue to try to take a proactive approach. So we'll publish employment outcomes. We like to tell the people who this program is ideal for, so hopefully they can see themselves in that description. We share the job growth outlook in the field. We want to tell them what the median pay will look like eventually when they complete a program, and then just the sheer number of jobs that are available in that field. We'll also interview lead instructors if it's on the certificate side or short-term programs. We'll also interview our professors if it's in a degree program. All of our degrees are taught by the same professors that are here on campus. We offer some that are flexible, some that are completely online. So we want students to have a feel for who'll be teaching them, and potentially build a rapport or see that they can have a really good relationship with that instructor and feel engaged and feel okay to reach out, whether it's email or phone. So our program managers actually conduct follow-ups each year after the program completion, and they do that for about 3 years or so. And what we want to do is share those impactful stories with our audience. And what we like to do is we'll interview the student, whether it depends on what they want. You know, do they want to meet in person? Do they want to meet via Zoom? Or do they just want to answer some questions via email? We'll do whatever makes you feel comfortable. And so we like to highlight maybe a first-gen educational experience, maybe diversity, equity, inclusion, socioeconomic, overcoming socioeconomic struggles. Maybe within the industry, we're filling some sort of skill gap and we want to talk about that employer and their mentor. And maybe this is, a person within that family, or maybe they're the first to graduate college, or maybe they're the first to even go beyond high school. We want to make that story as impactful as possible because there's somebody out there that's just like them. And so we want to also make sure that we're filling gaps beyond just tech. There are those that are in the corporate world. When we partner with them, we want to make sure we're filling that, whether it's taking a supervisor to a manager. And these testimonials with these graduates are quite impactful. And we hear a lot of the times people say, wow, I didn't know that I could do something like that. But after I read that story, I knew this was for me. And then what we do is we take that one story and we like to use it as many times as possible to get as much bang for our buck. Because like I said, we don't have a ton of money. So we can pitch the story to the media. We'll put it in social media posts. If it's a video interview, we'll post it on YouTube with a really nice description. We'll use it in email content. So if somebody's in one of our journeys, they may hear about that successful student. And then we'll even use it in the web itself for web content. So like I said, we really try to use one experience over multiple times so we can definitely get bang for our buck. There's other ways too, probably won't go into detail, but we do partner with an on-campus department called the Office of Institutional Effectiveness and Planning. So we can look at a job outlook and share even more data with our students and our instructors. We also work with our Career Center to get people involved in some of the career guidance, on-site recruiting, different expos on campus. And then we also partner with Alumni Engagement, who offers workshops and networking. And then we have a really good relationship with our strategic communications team on site here. And they like to publish a lot of the stories that we give to them. It's kind of funny because I actually end up pitching our strategic communications team with some of our ideas, and then they'll in turn cover some of those stories, whether it's via a written article for the media, podcast, or nationwide media. So those are just some of the ways that we do that here.
All right, thank you, Debbie. Another question that we'd like the panelists to address is what's the biggest challenge in connecting higher ed and workforce initiatives? Oh boy, Bridget, you mind jumping in and answering that one?
For sure, thank you, David. So I think for me, right, that the two main themes I'll talk about, definitely a big challenge is making sure that everyone is on the same page, right? Building that buy-in for something that is new for a lot of higher education institutions. And then of course, there's always the question of funding, right? How are we going to actually pay for this to make a difference for our students? So for me, right, the most important thing that comes to mind is ensuring that you have this really good coordinated effort across the university. For us, that looks like making sure you're using the same terminology. So when you have these conversations, everyone knows what you're talking about. And also having that very transparent conversation that just because we want to talk about skills or micro-credentials or industry certifications in the classroom, that doesn't have to take away from a rigorous classroom experience that also covers things, right, like theory, critical thinking, the things that we know are so important for our students to function, right, and have a successful career once they graduate. When we developed our micro-credential initiative, we decided to have that approved through the Faculty Senate. And this is just one example, right, of how to overcome one of those challenges. When you take something to the Faculty Senate for approval, you're able to have a lot of those conversations to really speak with the faculty, understand their concerns, and make sure that your policies and procedures address them effectively, right? So you can build that trust because trust is really, at the core of moving innovation forward. And now we have conversations with faculty all the time, right? About where a micro-credential might make sense, where an industry certification might be a better fit based on their curriculum. And they're very open, right, to the idea of bringing these innovative concepts into the classroom, understanding that this is really going to help set students apart in addition to all of the other really important things they're learning in the classroom. And then, to the funding question, for us, a good way to address this challenge was to have it be a conversation around when you're planning for the strategic plan. So that's when people are bringing a lot of great ideas to the table. What does the next 5 years look like for our institution? How do we fund that? How do we prioritize funding? So it's a good way to bring new ideas and think about how they might fit into the future of the institution. And that might look like funding for the Center for the Advancement of Teaching to help faculty understand how to integrate these certifications or micro-credentials into their classroom. It might look like stipends to fund faculty to develop, these concepts, or to give them a course release to really, create a master syllabus that integrates a certification that other faculty or, adjunct instructors can use. And I think the other important thing is, which is a challenge as well, right, is how do we look at ROI, return on investment, in higher education? In the past, you might not have always needed to justify what you were doing or show the ROI. But as many institutions go through budget conversations, it's really important to make sure you're documenting that ROI. And if you know where some programs might not be as successful, there's a lot of evidence here that these certifications, this type of skill building, is really helpful to students. How can you say, maybe we need to sunset some things in order to try some more of these innovative ideas to help our students be successful? And that's important, of course, for internal funding, but also, when you're looking for external grant funding as well.
All right, thank you, Bridget. And Stacy, so what challenges are you finding at North Dakota State?
I think right away, one challenge we've had is just the time it takes to find the right people, and to build those connections and relationships. And then it takes time to foster those relationships. And then I think there's maybe some preconceived notions that you have to overcome when you approach someone from the community, where they just assume you're coming with your hand out. If you're coming from higher education for, donate to this or support that. And so we really try to go in with the idea of how is our relationship mutually beneficial? How can we work together to promote things that you want and need, but as well things that we want and need. We are rather lucky. North Dakota State is a research institution, but we also have a big focus on workforce development. And a few years back, we had some leadership with some good vision around partnerships. And so sitting on our campus, we have what's called our research park, and John Deere is in our research park with a building. We have strong relationships with like Doosan Bobcat, which is an international company, but it's located here in North Dakota is where it got its start. And then we have, taken things out into the community. We work with our largest healthcare system to do our nursing training, things like that. And so we try to leverage those sorts of things. And then, actually right before I got on this webinar, we were on a call with Microsoft. And so making sure that you can leverage those people that are in your backyard and finding those right connections and those ways to leverage that. And then just not forgetting that behind all of this, really, the K-12 schools, because those are our future students in many cases, but also the ways that we can support the things that they're doing to make, in rural schools where they may not have a teacher who can teach the things that they need taught in those buildings, or bring experiences to those students just because of the rural nature of the school. And so just finding ways that we can always be looking for those opportunities to support the community and the region with things that we have on our campus. We have new leadership here at NDSU, and we're in a big initiative right now called NDSU Transform. And the two big pieces that I think our office has really latched onto are quality and accessibility. So, there are lots of higher education institutions out there. There are many people doing workforce development, but what sets us apart? And so we've really focused on sort of upping our game with kind of a concierge service for students, making sure that everyone feels cared for, because we know word of mouth matters, and we know that our student experience is really important, whether they're a degree student or non-degree student. And so we've been doing a lot of work here at NDSU with what does that look like, and what is everybody's role in that? And so I've been on a road show here at the university for the last few months, meeting with departments and programs and faculty and administration and service units on campus, really trying to bring us together. And higher education is infamous for being siloed, and everyone kind of does their own thing. You know, we're this college, we're that college, and everybody is sort of a self-support unit, and really trying to break down those walls and really think of ourselves more as an enterprise, that we're all in this together. We're not all self-employed. And so, but it's one thing to say that, but what does it really look like? And so we've done a lot of that work here. We've been doing that work, and we're in the thick of it here at NDSU, trying to kind of reimagine what higher education is often defined as. And yeah, just I think connections, as you know, what I said in our opening, just trying to build connections not only externally, but they're just as important internally, because it's hard to sustain or make that external connection if you don't have everyone internally at the table and playing their part.
Thank you, Stacy. Say some of the attendees, you came in a little bit late. I just want to let you know that if you do have questions, you can put it in the chat. We have one more question for the panelists, and this is for the entire group. So please, if you feel inspired, jump in and answer. But the question is, what are you currently doing to innovate in this space? And in my career, I was in charge of innovation, and it's a bit of a nebulous term. You can take a lot of different forms, but to Bridget's point, there has to be an ROI at the end of it. And so just wondering if any of you would like to share, some specific innovative either ideas or actual things that you are currently doing or have done or plan to do.
I'm happy to start. I think one of the things that is innovative that we're doing is really focusing on putting these activities in the classroom, right? And it sounds like it shouldn't be innovative, but when you actually speak to colleagues around the country, and I've had the pleasure of speaking about this when it comes to micro-credentialing, it is really difficult to do at scale. And I think it's important to focus on it though, because the reason why we do it is for access. When depending on what kind of institution you're at, if you have a lot of commuter students, if you have a lot of adult learners, if you have many students who have to work or need to support their families, they're not staying on campus to participate in co-curriculars, right? So making sure that we also think about how to make these, how to make the technology, how to make the certifications, the micro-credentials available in the classroom where our students at FIU at least spend most of their time on campus is really important for us. And then the other thing that we've been exploring is this concept of apprenticeships, whether they're registered or unregistered. How do you really develop meaningful partnerships with employers so that when they're posting internships, they really meet those 5 hallmarks, right? Which includes access to, you call it related technical instruction education, right? And the opportunity to earn an industry certification. So we've had really great success in flipping some of our internships to meet that higher level of rigor, which also includes the integration. We use CompTIA in our latest iteration, but that is somewhere where something like SkillStorm could really plug in nicely, where you provide them with the related technical instruction and they get access to the voucher to earn the certification in one place.
Bridget, I'm going to follow up real quickly here. So it is a challenge to have this type of training, right? Offered for credit. Do you have any more granular kind of steps that you went through in order to make that happen?
So I think a lot of it has to do with the amount of time and of course funding we've invested in quality professional development for our faculty, to understand how you can integrate something that's skills-based within the class that you already offer, right? So that the student walks away with something tangible, that competency statement, that set of outcomes that they say, I took this course and I walked away being able to do X, Y, and Z. And we spend a lot of time, our Office of Micro-Credentials, which includes the integration of industry certifications and things like SkillStorm, We take a lot of time with faculty to look at their course outcomes, understand where something like this might fit, and then help to align it so it seems like a seamless part of the course. Because when you just kind of add in a module or just plug something in, it can be kind of clunky, right, and not make total sense to the student. Our goal is always to make sure that the faculty member can say to the students at the very first day, you know, you're going to be able to earn a micro-credential, be prepared to take an industry certification, and here is how I'm going to make sure you're able to do that and what it means for you. So it's an entire kind of ecosystem within a course, but you're actually helping the student connect the dots, and that's what's really important about taking the time to do that training. And we do have an Office of Micro-Credentials, which we invested in as part of our last strategic plan. But having those faculty, having the buy-in right with your teaching and development colleagues to make sure that faculty feel confident in their ability to not only integrate it, but also communicate what they're doing to the students.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share something innovative?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're trying to do, and it's kind of disappointing to think that it's innovation, is overcoming the perception that higher education is slow, it's not nimble, it's too expensive, it's inflexible. And what we've tried to do with our partnerships is approach them from a problem-solving mentality. So instead of, we're going to tell you what we're going to deliver to you as a university, we're asking, what are the biggest problems you've got, and are there ways to solve it, either with us or with our partners or with someone else we can refer you to. So a few areas where we've kind of found those interesting is, one is we're developing a mobile career lab so that we can actually go into all of our communities, disadvantaged communities, underrepresented communities, and talk about 4 things. What training do you need to get to the job that you really desire, the thing that's your passion? Are there degree programs that'll help you get there at Indiana Wesleyan? Are there degree programs that can get you there at other universities? Or do you just need a high school equivalency to get going? And then how does that all connect together? And then developing more unique partnerships with entities that we wouldn't normally work with, like churches. We go into large churches, we set up partnerships and co-marketing relationships, and they'll bring traditional college-age students into programs, and then they love and care for them. They set up space for them. They create learning opportunities while those students are taking online degree programs at our university. So we just visited a university up in north of Detroit. They've got 14 students that are doing online. One of them was a young lady who was doing digital marketing. Well, she was given the opportunity by the church to develop all the marketing materials for their annual women's conference. She never would have had that opportunity had she not been in the partnership that church had. We also look for trying to solve other problems for businesses. We work or have been developing a relationship with, let's call it an airline that does dispatch, and there's no degree program. So we're working on, do we develop training and a degree program around airline dispatch, a very unique set of skills, and then leadership that goes along with that. And the military program, we've partnered with an organization called the Catalyst that helps veterans make the transformation from full-time military, and then they go in through a program that's about 12 weeks long that is undergirded or has the foundation of 3 leadership courses from Indiana Wesleyan, for which they get 9 hours of leadership credit. And it adds a whole value level of introducing these soldiers and airmen to CEOs of companies who are veterans, people who are entrepreneurs who have solved problems, and they get to learn from their perspective what it's like to make that transition. So they come out successful and they come out prepared for jobs. So it's really about, I think, listening for what the problems are and trying to solve those, be more nimble, be quicker to respond, and not have a one-size-fits-all approach, which we had historically had.
Thank you, Kevin.
I can share just a little bit too. One thing that we did early on when we partnered with SkillStorm is that we leveraged those pathway courses that are kind of introductory and interest grabbing, and we we advertised them out through the Career and Technical Education Network for K-12 for high school students. And so we thought that was a really great place to start to build interest, to show them possibilities in different career paths. And so truly using them as pathway courses to draw students in. And also, of course, leveraging the North Dakota State University name. We, like Bridget was talking about, we also do micro-credentialing out of our office. I'm fairly new to this office, and so we started some of these things fairly recently and are just getting a foothold in all of them. But like Bridget, we have been working with faculty to identify the things that are already in their courses, but may not be things that, like Bridget pointed out, students would be able to necessarily articulate when they leave. And an example of that, so we have a minor in entrepreneurship that can be partnered up with multiple different degrees, because whether you're in agriculture or business, or you work in our housing and interior design program, having that entrepreneurship piece is certainly a nice complement. But people might not always know how to talk about their entrepreneurship skills. And so we have a cluster of micro-credentials that lead up to a larger credential in entrepreneurship. And I believe, and they called them kind of neat names, and I'm going to blank on them now, but like, how do you make a pitch? How do you do things like that? And so there are skills. We also partnered with our teacher education program, and in our state, to get licensure, you have to have trauma-informed schools training. And so, but what we found is that our completers weren't necessarily able to articulate that they had completed that training, because they did it in a series of modules over 3 different courses. And they got all done, and they'd sort of forgotten that that's what those modules were about, and with everything else they were learning. But having that micro credential that they could link into their resume and share with their future employer. Again, like Kevin said, it feels a little bit sad that has to be innovative, but it does get that out front and center and shows the sorts of things that when you graduate from North Dakota State, these are the skills you come ready to hit the ground running with. And so being able to leverage that. And then we've worked pretty heavily with our student activities office so that we can hit students no matter what their degree area is, to build those leadership skills and to make them aware of what skills they have. And then to do verifiable skills. There are different levels of micro-credentials, and we've found that when we can make those skills verified in the metadata behind them, that carries a lot of value as well for employers. And so those are just a few things that we've tried.
Thank you, Stacy.
Hey, David, I have a couple examples. One kind of piggybacks off what Kevin was talking about. And so when we want to expand our online opportunities, we all know it's costly and resource intensive. So what we've done is partnered with the likes of SkillStorm and another to offer non-tech and tech courses and programs. And so what we like about them is, coming from a California public university, is not just the quality and accessibility, but for us, affordability is also key. And so these online training courses do offer all of those things at a reasonable price, and they're self-paced, right? So an example is, with these tech programs, they typically include a voucher to take an industry certification. And that's pretty powerful for some of our students, because they know those are highly sought after in those tech industries or just in a tech department. One, and I don't like everyone's saying, I don't know if it's innovative, but we partnered with SkillStorm to create a hyper tech focused email journey so that folks, when they're interested after hitting a specific landing page, we will then dedupe these folks out of our interest list and put them into this more hyper tech focused email journey. And we think that's going to help us capitalize on where SkillStorm's expertise is, as opposed to us, because we're just trying to get people interested in tech. And then the other thing that we actually just launched last week was a biomanufacturing technician program that was actually in partnership between 3 CSU campuses. So it's Fullerton, Long Beach, and LA, and it's called the Biomanufacturing Technician Program. And we actually partnered with the Biocom California Institute because they've identified there are so many open positions within biomanufacturing that they can't get people interested, they can't train people quick enough. And so what we're doing is we're trying to train entry-level folks and get them it's not a certification, but a certificate that we've built with that institute. And then we've recently earned a grant. So we're actually going to focus some efforts on STEM education within underserved communities. And that could be high school age students that are coming right out of high school not knowing where their next step is. And this would be free, completely free to them. And then they may get interested in this type of a program. And then we're working on other partnerships to eventually maybe even get the entire program paid for free through different boards and grants and things like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Debbie. Some of you might be aware there's a senator from Virginia and a senator from Indiana are trying to push through a jobs bill that would enlarge the scope of Pell Grants towards micro-credentials and towards what typically has not been for credit learning. So keep our fingers crossed. That would certainly, many continuing and professional ed divisions at universities have to be self-supporting, which is a tough thing to do. So we'll see what happens there. We're hopeful. I just want to be cognizant of time. We have about 17 minutes left. I have a colleague who's been tracking the questions in the chat. Connor Blay, do we have any questions for the panel?
Hi, everyone. Yes, we do have a couple of questions for the panel. The first question is for you, Kevin. What % of students that take advantage of credits as part of certification programs enroll as degree students? And that comes from Nelson Chipman from Point Park University. Thanks, Nelson.
Yeah, great question. Right now, it's about 20-ish%, 20 to 22% go on. Some of it depends on what the program is, and some of it depends on the topic that they're going through. So, and that's obviously one of the reasons why my chancellor is talking about not having it be quite so much of a key performance indicator, because it's really meant to be developing workforce skills and employability. So we're developing 5 in-house certificates right now, 3 levels of leadership, negotiations, communications, and financial management for non-financial managers, which may be more appropriate to, as an example, somebody with an associate's degree who wants to go into a bachelor's. We do a lot of degree completion at Indiana Wesleyan, so that tends to mix the numbers a little bit, but about a fifth right now.
All right, thanks, Kevin. And then Nelson has another question for you, Stacy. For leveraging the tech credentials to high school students, did you have any funding to help underwrite the costs for the students?
So right now we're using the free pathway courses that SkillStorm offers. They're really nice foundational classes if you're going to go into some of the paid for classes, but they're also exploratory, is what I noticed when I was looking through them. So if you've got a high school student who might be interested in computer programming or cybersecurity, you know, and there's quite a nice list of the free pathway courses. It's a great way to let the student explore that without cost. And so that's kind of the whole neat piece of those. It's a pathway into the paid courses or possibly a degree program at NDSU. So we didn't need to have funding for that.
A follow-up from Nelson, do you provide any advising support to those students in the free courses?
We do. So in fact, I've met with multiple families in the last couple of weeks through my office. So I used to be a K-12 teacher. So I was a high school teacher in my previous life. And so it makes it a natural piece for me in this office. But one of the things we offer to our students who want to do early entry, who want to do dual credit with us, or want to take, you know, those pathway courses and things, is we let them know, hey, are you interested in a major? Let us tell you what that might look like here at NDSU. We want to get you on campus. We want to tell you how, you know, what classes are the best ones to take if you're thinking about pursuing a degree here. met with somebody yesterday who wants to do our strategic communication and laid out what classes she should do for early entry. And so yes, that concierge service, and it is time intensive, I'll say that, but it's also really rewarding, really fun, and I think worth the time.
Excellent. Thank you, Stacy. This next question, I want to have all of you answer this one. What advice would you give someone who is just getting started in the area of tech certifications? Debbie, do you want to go ahead and start?
Oh, okay.
Sure. I would say maybe talk to your corporate partners locally if you have some sort of a benchmark group or somebody you can kind of kick around ideas to find out what's actually a need in the local workforce. You know, it's funny because I was talking to my dad this weekend, and he's already retired, but he actually took a lot of these CompTIA courses because he was a corporate technical trainer, and he was telling me that he was on ROP boards. And I mean, growing up, I didn't know that. I really didn't know what that meant. But he said they would bounce ideas off of him to find out what are we missing. And I think that that's a really good starting point. If you're finding that a lot of your corporate partners need, let's say, AWS engineers or cybersecurity engineers, and you don't have the capacity to build that within your instructional design and learning development folks, you're going to want to bring that on board quickly. You're going to need to find a third-party provider, which is exactly what we did. So I think that's where I would start. You could always ask professors on campus. A lot of the times, though, they may not have extra time to build these new programs, to get them passed through not only just their department, but then for us, it's got to go through our university, then through our chancellor's office. And believe it or not, our corporate partners did say AWS was a need, so did our professors. They just didn't have time to build it. So when we told them we were partnering with folks that could bring that to them, they said, that's great. I will tell my students to take those courses in combination with a degree. So that's my suggestion.
So I can say, like, we are just getting started here at NDSU. We, formed our partnership last fall with SkillStorm. And so, stumbled around a little bit until we got our footing, but don't forget about your foundation, because they likely have lots of connections that they can help you make with some of the corporate sponsor type people, so that you can find out who it is you need to talk to in that organization. Otherwise, you can send a lot of emails and make a lot of phone calls that go nowhere. And so probably the fastest way to find the right person is to probably talk to your foundation. I know they helped us make connections. And then this might sound really basic, but I read the news and I find out what people are doing and what they need. And so I found out that one of the casinos here in North Dakota, because our tribes run casinos, they were doing a big expansion. They had just bought like a new casino and things like that. And so, wow, they're going to need to train their workforce. And so we reached out to them. I mean, and so it's things like that, or finding out what the chamber's doing. So reaching out to your Chamber of Commerce. And so we've been doing things like that and trying to get our foothold and figure out who those people are that we need to talk to, because it's as much finding, like you think about an organization like Microsoft, we're very lucky they're in our backyard. I think that people don't often realize the second largest Microsoft campus is actually here in Fargo, North Dakota. Probably most people don't know that. And so, but who do you talk to, right? And so finding those right people can sometimes take a little time, but your foundation probably knows who they are.
I think another option is to kind of secret shop, find out what other institutions, other entities are offering in your area, and develop an idea of what your distinctive is going to be. How are you going to be different? How are you going to add value? As Stacy said, read. Your state economic development corp will tout every new development. You've heard on this call biotech. I was just in Lexington, Kentucky yesterday. Giant biotech growth there. Indiana and Ohio have won massive battery manufacturing facilities. So make early connections to find out, because every organization has tech requirement. They have network, they have cyber, they have everything from top to bottom, and many of them have Salesforce too. And these are really outstanding certifications that SkillStorm provides to us. And then find the funding, follow the money, figure out what your state offers, what grants are available. I find it really easy, much easier to sell a certification to a corporation when I bring them the money to pay for it as well, than to have them find money to pay for it. It's kind of like that race car driver who brings his own sponsorship to a new team. You've already got the money. So try to solve some of these problems, eliminate some of the hurdles early on, and that smooths the process out a lot.
And I'll just add internally, right? Because I think all of the suggestions are spot on in terms of figuring out what's going to actually help students, right, get those jobs once they graduate. I think internally, right, higher ed in general tends to be very siloed. So making sure you're reaching out to your continuing ed colleagues who have probably been doing this for a while. For us, it was making sure we involved our College of Business or College of Engineering, because most of their degrees are the ones that are aligned, to make sure you have that internal network to help move things forward, and then eventually be able to scale that to measure the ROI to continue funding these types of initiatives.
All right, thank you all. That's excellent advice. So we're coming up on 1:30, so I think we'll do one or two more questions. This one is from John Fries at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And I'll let you guys go around and answer this one too. Do you have any models where you've partnered with corporate partners to place participants into internships or apprenticeships? Sorry.
So we actually partnered with a local government agency to offer the technical training and certification while they were in the internship. So it was the example that I gave a little bit earlier, but we do have folks that are willing to partner with us in that way. We've also had the conversations with some of our strategic employer partners about getting students involved in a specific track, whether that's co-curricular or part of the classroom training with their industry certifications, so that as soon as they graduate, we can send them the job posting and say, because you completed this track, you are now qualified and this employer wants to hire you. And there's an announcement coming up soon, which I'll share with David, in case he wants to share with the attendees of this group, that actually highlights that partnership. So like we learned earlier, the demand is there. So employer partners are also willing to be creative and work more with higher ed, I think, now than before, to create some more of these, innovative pathways.
Yeah, I can talk about our biomanufacturing technician program that launched a week or so ago. We're already doing site visits with the instructors, the students, as well as K-12 high school students, taking them on a journey to see what it's actually like to be in that field. And then we have the Institute, who already has a whole page of jobs listed. We are going to host a career fair where we are going to bring folks that are going to be hiring to the students. And so we're going to host that over at Cal State Long Beach. And it sounds like we have different companies chomping at the bit once our students graduate from this program, because there are jobs to be filled.
All right, thank you both for those thoughtful answers. I want to end here on a positive note, so I'll just throw this question out here. Can you all share a student success story?
I can share one from our military student who we're very aggressive about how we transfer in joint services transcript credits. This individual served in special forces. He was contaminated by nerve agents, so he's physically recovering, but he has a job lined up, but he needed a degree. And so we took 199 hours from his joint transcript. We added the Catalyst certification, which is the leadership development, on top of our 3 leadership courses. And at the end of March, he will graduate. Will have taken him 9 months to come out of the military and achieve a bachelor's degree, and he will immediately be employed. So anytime you can find an opportunity to make the transition as fast as possible for someone who has earned it and is ready to go, to me, those are the student success stories.
I mean, for here, we have an entire page dedicated to several. Just thinking quickly, we had a person who was working in our own department here, doing some HR coordinating, took one of our certificates, completed that, and said, yep, that's what I want to do for a living. Decided to go back to school, which was really neat because she was already helping to raise a child, not hers. She was working full time. Then she said, you know what, I'm going to go back to school full time and I'm going to do this. She ended up finishing her degree here on campus, and now she has her dream job here on campus in HR. And she now tells people and onboards people and tells them all about our certificate programs, our online degrees, and she's one of our best sellers, if you will. She a mobile advertiser. And so I just always think of her because she is truly a success story, and I know her personally, and she speaks wonders about all the different, courses and programs that we offer. There's many more, but that was just the one that came to mind.
Connor, I think that might be a good story to end on. We are at time. I want to thank the panelists. I know how busy all of you are, and really appreciate your time and your insight and your guidance. And for those of you who are attending, if you want additional information, there's my contact information as well. And just want to say thank you for attending, and also thank you, panelists. Really appreciated the insight that you gave everyone today. Okay, everyone, have a great Tuesday, and we'll be in touch.